Hello, Julio.
What up, man?
How's it going?
Good. I had some good drinks, so I'm pretty fried. So we're gonna rip it up.
I'm gonna join you on that. I got some Cabernet Sauvignon here.
Yeah, I got the usual Rolling Rock. I'm cheap like a street skater.
We get both ends of the spectrum here.
Yep, exactly. I figure we can go into specifics about how like our favorite parts of Dark Side go, and then we can
Hmm.
bring up animals or the wall or something too if we have extra time. Is that
Oh yeah,
cool?
yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
man. Awesome. We're gonna rip it up, dude. I even whipped out a guitar too, so I feel more comfortable talking so long. I'm not used to that shit, man. I
Yeah,
agreed to it, and then I was like, dude, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm nervous too, and I got the handshaking thing going also. So
yeah. My hand does that. It's not quite so bad now that I've got a couple glasses of this wine down, but usually it's shaking like crazy.
that's the way it works for me too, man. I've had it going on my whole life. I guess that's kind of something you and me have in common.
Yeah.
So we'll wait for John to start this up and have some drinks and do it up for an hour. All right, but dude, here we go.
We've already started. We are live.
I thought so.
I gotta say, I gotta say, I gotta say thank you first to Julio for sitting in on this deal because as you can hear, I still sound pretty well like this.
Yeah.
So
What?
I'm still sick. I'm still sick, but I'm getting better. But my
Good.
throat's still iffy, so I didn't feel like I could go for 30 or 45 minutes or an hour. So thanks again to Julio for stepping up and being in the host chair this one time. Really
Yeah,
means
No
we'll
a
get you
lot.
problem.
back soon.
I'm glad you eventually noticed me.
I was I'd gotten so busy I didn't see any of your things. So I will go back to the green room and we will commence to talking about Pink Floyd and the dark side of the moon.
Let's go.
Awesome. So the first time I heard Pink Floyd was probably when I was, well, I mean, as early as I can remember. I was a child, it was my dad's favorite band, and because it was his favorite band, it was my favorite band. And my dad he liked to drive around all the time. We'd just go for rides and listen to music. So I mean, as early as I can remember hearing "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," "One of These Days," all that kind of stuff playing in the background since I was like 4 or 5 years old, and it was all the, you know, uh, Shine or "Wish You Were Here," that album, "Dark Side of the Moon," some
Yep.
Animal stuff, metal, of
The
course.
wall.
Yeah, The
Yep.
Wall. I heard Echoes. Echoes just blew me away. It's like
Oh.
30-minute song or something. It's the entire side of an album. It's
Yeah,
just
and then you just flip it and it keeps going.
hmm yeah, that
Hmm.
song, that was when everything started to change for them. They started
Yeah,
off
totally.
they were more
Way
of a
different.
yeah, they were a lot more psychedelic back in the day when they were
Yep.
first starting off, and then
Like on
after
like on a saucer full of secrets. Actually, that
yep,
record is wild.
yeah, that one Umaguma, yeah, all that
Yep.
early stuff. That was the direction they started off in, but then
Some of those
the,
real rare ones and everything. Those are wild too, man.
yeah, that was one of those
But I
songs
figured.
I performed
Oh yeah.
Get the Controls for the Heart of the Sun. I did that one a couple hours ago in Socially Distant Fest.
Oh yeah. I
I
was
have
there.
I have to represent the old stuff too, as well as the rest of it.
Oh sure. I mean, all of it's pretty great. They're one of the few bands where even if it wasn't great, there was something good on the table.
Oh yeah, there's not.
So so I can't even remember the first time I heard Floyd. I got like the Pompeii stuff and all of the studio cuts.
Yeah.
And like you, my dad loved them too. So I kind of grew
Hmm.
up listening to them in the car. We had The Wall on 8-track and all that stuff. So, and that
Yeah.
was in the 80s. So I've been listening to them a
Hmm.
long time. So I
Right.
figure we'll just talk about some of our favorite stuff they did, and then just
Hmm.
go into The Wall a little more in depth for the last half hour or so, like John said. And I want to
Yeah.
thank Mr. John Phipps too, because it was great that he could give me the chance to talk about Floyd with you, man. I've been watching Jay for a while, and he's a great performer.
Thanks.
So why
I
don't
guess
you go
we got to
first, and
cheers
we'll.
before we do that.
Oh yeah,
We got
let's
to
go,
cheers.
man. I'll knock my phone over doing it, but why don't you just why don't you go first? We'll talk about things we like about Pink Floyd, and then we'll just go into the a couple of records in depth for the last part. How about that?
Sounds good. Yeah,
All right, go, buddy.
I love "Shine On You Crazy Diamond." That song, like I say, as an early child, that song stuck with me. I just the the keyboards in it and the way the melody flows, and it starts off here, but it takes you there, and then it takes you somewhere else, and that's what I think music should do. It should take you on a journey. That's what I try to do with my own music. That's what Pink Floyd was one of the biggest influences for me to 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 write my own music. Anytime I want to write, if I come up with a new idea, I usually listen to Pink Floyd first, and then I start diving into my own ideas. But I remember my dad growing up. He his favorite song was "Time." I love that song too. I feel like that song relates to my life. I mean, it probably relates to a lot of our lives, where they say, 10 years have got behind me. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. Like 10 years goes by so fast and you didn't even know it. But, but when you're young and 18 and you think 10 years from now is going to take forever. But yeah, and then I loved um, learning to fly off a momentary lapse of reason with the drums, the way that song kicked in and everything. I think I was like, I can't remember how old I was, but when that when that first came out, it was all over MTV. I was watching that all the time when that first came out. I can't hear you, Julio. I can't hear you. I think Julio's muted. Am I muted? I can't hear you.
Julio's not muted.
Oh,
He isn't muted. It's a sound issue on his end.
oh,
So, Julio, I tell you what, leave and then come back in. Let's see if that works. Leave and come back in and see if that works. So, until Julio gets his issue fixed, I guess I can take over a little bit. So, just going off of what you and excuse me, what you and Julio were hitting on. Um, what songs? Well, you've kind of touched on some of the songs, but what was the first one that really jumped out and grabbed you?
it it was two songs, but they were always playing in the background in my dad's car, and that was "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," and then "One of These Days." Both of those songs were always in my dad's car when I was, 3, 4, 5 years old, somewhere around there. I always remembered hearing the keyboards in the background. Those were the first ones.
So, um, how did your love of Pink Floyd like take root over time?
Yeah, so that, like I say, a lot of it was based on just hanging out with my dad all the time. I had kind of a rough relationship with my mother, which we don't need to get a whole lot into, but I was always hanging out with my dad instead, trying to just be with him. And so it was his favorite band. I just hung out with him all the time. So it just having it playing so often because that was what he was always playing. It just kind of stuck with me right from the beginning. And I always loved how, like I was saying earlier, how it takes you on a journey and everything like that. Um, they seem to touch on key aspects about everyday life, and that's what I like about them. Like that they hit on all the important topics, and if there's something that you need to think about, you just need to find the right song. It's in there.
Okay, so Julio is back, and I'm hoping that his audio issue is fixed. So I will turn the reins back over to him. Hello, sir.
All righty, buddy. Well, what the hell were we talking about, Jay? That took me a minute.
Yeah, when we were talking about our favorite songs, I went over a handful of my favorites.
I think we were talking about the David Gilmour period after Roger Waters was gone. Actually, I'm glad that up because there is some great stuff from that period, but I didn't listen to it too much because I was more of a Roger Waters guy. So after The Wall and When the Tigers Broke Free came out, I was kind of done for a while. So it's cool you brought up that stuff because I really didn't listen to that enough to be mindful about it. So
yeah, the Division Bell was amazing. I loved the Division Bell.
No, yeah, I have it around here somewhere in some place tucked under a blanket or something. But
it's
so yeah, they all are in their own unique ways. So why don't you, since I'm back hosting, why don't you just talk about whatever you were last talking about, and we'll start getting to Dark Side in about 15 minutes. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Let's hit it, yo.
I think I was
Jay.
I was talking about Learning to Fly was I think that was when you cut out that song with the way the drums kick in on that song. I love that. I was like 4, 5, 6 years old, and it was all over MTV, of course, and that whole album.
Yeah,
I love that album. Momentary Lapse of Reason. You got the song Sorrow at the end of it.
Yeah.
With his that riff, they start off in their concerts and you see the laser lights coming out over the crowd, and they got the fog coming through the lasers, so it looks like a whole big cloud going across. And then he does that heavy ass guitar riff for Sorrow, and it's just puts chills down your spine. You got the dark low keyboard in the background going over it. And I love the keyboards over top of all that kind of music and stuff.
Yeah, they had a great rhythm section back in the day. So since I'm hosting, why don't you take a drink, because that's what I do, and tell the people. Yeah, yo, man. So why don't you take a couple moments to tell the people how Pink Floyd affected you the most, whether it was musically or personally or family wise, something like that. So take a couple minutes to rattle that off.
Yeah, most of it was just because of the relationship that I had with my mom. I was trying to hang out with my dad a lot more. My mom and I didn't get along quite so well, so most of the time I was hanging out.
I had the same thing going on with my mom and dad. My mom didn't like me too much, so I was with my dad most of the time, and I still take care of him. He lives pretty close to me.
I think we were meant to do this together. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Sorry, you had to be sick, Mr. Jonathan, for us to do this, but it's pretty cool we get to.
So yeah, I hung out with my dad all the time. It was his favorite band, so it was my favorite band. So mostly Pink Floyd, it helped me with my writing process and everything. I was telling John a little bit ago, every time I write something, usually I'll listen to Pink Floyd first, and then that'll kind of
as a reference. Yeah
that'll send me down whichever path I want to go, and then I start writing my stuff. before I wrote my 2 albums, Through the Darkness and Into the Light, I actually listened to The Wall pretty heavily, and then I went into Through the Darkness, and that kind of gave me my framework for that whole Through the Darkness album, because there's some songs on there. It's kind of like The Wall with Another Brick in the Wall. There's 3 songs, part one,
Three
two, and three.
parts.
Yeah, I've got on Through the Darkness, I've got Sinking, Still Sinking, and Drowning, and ultimately it's the same riff done 3 different ways. So I kind of use the same framework when I designed that album, and that was all inspired by listening to The Wall beforehand.
Yeah, man. The Wall, actually, since you're talking about The Wall, that actually is probably my favorite record. But it's hard to pick a favorite with Pink Floyd.
It is. I knew
but
I had
that
to
rec-
pick one album for this, and I was like, how can I pick one album?
No, and that's why we're talking Dark Side, and I have a lot to say about that one too. But The Wall in itself is probably the one that affected me the most. I got a lot of wall tattoos, and it kind of messed my head up after a couple of relations. So it was in my life a lot.
Okay.
So why don't you talk about a couple more cuts, and we'll get to Dark Side here.
Yeah. I also want to talk a little bit about Animals, because it was real hard for me to pick.
I love Animals, man.
And Dark Side. Animals is such a good album. There aren't really any hits on that album because
no, there's not. But we could have talked just as much about Animals. Maybe we'll wind up doing it if we have enough time. If we don't screw around.
Yeah, there were only 5 songs on the album, so I knew going over the album would have been pretty quick. I mean, I can just run over them all real fast. It's Pigs on the Wing, the one at the beginning and the one at the end.
Right now.
Yeah, then they got Dogs, and then Pigs, and then Sheep. And then, so those are all the songs. So the album was designed. The idea is we're all a bunch of sheep living in a world run by dogs owned by pigs.
Yep.
And that was the theme of the album.
That have all the money in the world and tell us what to do.
Yeah, it was a big FU to the people running the world and the government and all that, and pointing out the social status and everything. And I see we've only been running about 18 minutes, so we can talk about Animals for a while before we get to Dark Side. So a lot of those are jams that are probably about 10 minutes long. But my favorite parts, my favorite parts, though, myself personally, are the Roger Waters parts where he's just acoustic by himself, just like at the end of The Wall. What are your thoughts about Animals? Yeah, I think Animals was probably the peak for them musically, as far as like putting together music that takes you on a journey and everything. Those songs, I mean, like I was saying about Shine on You Crazy Diamond, it takes you on a journey. The Animals songs, they take you all over the place, and it's just great. It's a great album. I think it could be one of their best albums. It's hard to pick between any of them, really.
I agree, actually. Yeah. It's kind of just like The Wall, where it's diverse in all sorts of genres all at once. And that's the cool kind of records, where you can hear every kind of music in one spot. That's probably the best thing I could give Under the Influence, is telling people you can find greatness in any record, even if it's horrible. You just gotta look for it.
And the song Pigs, or I can't remember if it's Pigs or Sheep, one of the two. You get halfway through the end of it, and they break into a little funky blues kind of a section.
Yep. Real great, man. Yeah, dude. Lucky we don't have anywhere to drive. So see, we got 10 more minutes. So why don't we just talk about a couple more things about Pink Floyd before we jump into Dark Side for a while? maybe another record. I decided this would kind of be more of a Pink Floyd retrospective instead of just focusing on one thing.
Yeah.
Since Under the Influence is a new show, I figured we could probably be able to get away with that.
I would like to say one more thing about the Animals album, that when they were doing the photo shoot for the cover, they flew that big pig over the it was a power plant, and that thing ended up breaking loose while they were trying to take pictures of it, and it flew down a ways. It ended up getting in the way of I think Heathrow Airport. They had some issues with that, with planes trying to land, because there's this big inflatable pig floating by. But
so that's why it's flying all loose on the cover of the record then.
Well, I think it was still attached when it was on that.
Oh, I think you're right, actually. I didn't know that about that, man. Thanks. That's a cool fact to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, funny little story.
So let's keep riffing for a minute, and then we'll jump into Dark Side. I figure since I saw Tom do this, we'll just go kind of track by track.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll have to remind me which tracks are up, because I don't remember.
Oh, for sure. Let me top up my glasses. So,
everyone in the party audience tonight, too, why don't you top off whatever you're drinking, because we're going to be here a minute.
Yep. At least
cheers, yo.
At least till 9.
Absolutely. I'm coming to you all the way from New York City.
How about we go ahead and go into the Dark Side of the Moon now, and then if there's any time.
Okay, we'll start talking about the first track then, and I'll jump in after you're done through the whole record. And if we have time after, we'll jump into another record for a minute too before we peacefully get out of here. So hop into it.
Good. Sounds good.
Great. Let's go.
First track on Dark Side of the Moon is Speak to Me / Breathe.
Breathe.
They named both parts. I guess Speak to Me would be all that weird stuff you hear at the beginning. You start off hearing the heartbeat, boom, 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 boom. And then the next thing you know, you hear the machine sounds, and then you hear the clocks and some money sounds. And then after about a minute's worth of that, the female singer starts to scream a little bit. And next thing you know, you break into Breathe. And the sound of the guitars on Breathe, it grabs me every single time. I just love the sound of it, just the way the chorusing and flange effect that he has on his guitar. And that song, and most of the album, like I was saying, talks about life, you know. And the first thing they say, breathe in the air. Don't be afraid to care. You know, just take some time to appreciate the world. You know, look around. You know, that's what they're trying to say. And
yeah, absolutely. That's something people don't think about in the world these days. And the thing about that, when Breathe is just starting, that female vocalist, she also sings on the
Great Gig in the Sky.
Yes, exactly. And she does killer on that. That's one of my favorites on here.
Yeah.
So the thing about those two tracks is that I think it makes a lot of ambiance as far as the flair of that record, and it really just kind of sets the tone for what you're in for. And I mean, it's a great record anyway. I mean, I think it's still on Billboard, so it's one of the most top-selling records of all time.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next track if you got it written down or you know it.
The next track is On the Run. On the Run.
Okay.
That was all more computerized stuff, more synthesized stuff. And
I don't typically like that kind of stuff, but I do dig it when people do it right.
Yeah. And that song, that came out before anybody was doing techno or any of that kind of stuff. And they've kind of got that kind of drum sound going on. and everybody always associates that with when they were on tour. When they first went on tour with that, they had the plane that they would crash a plane into the stage at the end of that song. At the very end of the song, you hear the big explosion, and that was how they did it at the
Boom.
concert. So yeah, they'd have a plane come by, and usually had a bunch of sparks going off. Of course, it was all prop, but they didn't really crash a plane. But they had a prop plane that would come down and right on the stage, and then they'd have everything big explosion. And from there,
right to the moon. But
yeah. And then from there, they would go into track 3, Time.
Yep. Let's keep going.
I love how all the songs flow together. That's what a lot of their
albums. I love records that do that, like Abbey Road, where you can listen to a whole side of an LP where it's just one song. So let's talk about this for a minute. You go.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's one of the things Pink Floyd, they're great at that, though, with the music tying together and everything. And
Pink Floyd on the Wall was like 3 CDs, just constantly, basically one song, man. They can crush it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
So
and that's the original band too. So talk about Time.
So Time starts off, you just hear clocks, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, and then all of a sudden, a whole shitload of them all go off all at the same time. Alarm clocks all go off all at the same time, and they all start to fade off, and the last one you hear is this gong, gong, and then finally you hear that very low bomb, the first note for Time, followed up by the chiming. He hits his harmonics on the guitar, and it's such a chilling first note when it hits that bomb and gives you the mood for the song. And then they go through that whole little part where Nick Mason has his little feature in there with his drum part on the toms, and it sounds awesome.
Oh yeah,
it makes the part, with they got just the right amount of reverb on the drums, so it's out there in the background, all
and Richard Wright was doing some cool shit, man.
Yeah. And then they kick into the song, the actual song of Time. Like I was saying earlier about that line, 10 years have got behind me. That song, it hits me every time I hear it. It's like they're singing about me. And I'm sure millions of other people feel the same way.
Totally, man. So we got plenty of time, so we can talk about Time longer and then go on to the next track, man. Just introduce it.
I love how Time, the solos in Time, he's got, or am I confusing it with Money? I think, I'm confusing it with Money.
I'm actually, I confuse Time with Money all the time, dude. You're not the only one.
Mm-hmm. They were both very popular. If you're gonna pick, it's hard to pick a couple of singles off of a whole album full of singles. But Time and Money, those are 2 of them for sure.
Yeah, they did it all the time, man.
Mm-hmm.
Even with The Wall, which was kind of a crazy record. They still had a lot of singles off that, like Mother and Comfortably Numb and all sorts of stuff.
That was all David Gilmour's. A lot of the stuff that David Gilmour brought to The Wall, those ended up being the hits. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And since Charlie Thompson, that's in the audience tonight, brought up about being stoned listening to Pink Floyd, let me tell you, I done that a couple of times, and it is a shocker. I would recommend it to anybody of legal age. I'm just saying.
Well, that's one of the things my father passed away in 2012, so I can tell this story now. He's not going to yell at me. But
right?
I remember him telling me.
Yeah, exactly. My mom's gone too, so I can pretty much air any dirty laundry I would want. So
when my dad,
why don't you talk about your old man?
when he graduated, he graduated in 1973, and that was the year that Dark Side of the Moon came out. And I remember
Hmm.
him telling me, there's a spot over, we've got a river by us called the Ashtabula River, and there's one place
Yeah.
called Tinker's Hollow, and Tinker's Hollow has a lot of history to it. There's actually a lot of haunted ghost stories about it. But my dad used to go up there with a lot of his friends that year, when Dark Side came out, and they'd all sit in a circle on the bank above the river, looking down over the river. They'd have a nice fire going. They were all getting stoned and listening to Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
I know I'm not
And
going to get in
Charlie,
trouble now.
and yeah, right. And Charlie's awesome anyway, since he's in the audience, and he knows
Oh yeah,
what's up.
Charlie
So,
Thompson, he's great. He's my
oh
cousin
yeah,
from another family.
no, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure he's a brother from another mother to us,
Hmm.
man.
Yeah,
So,
he's my
why?
cousin from another family.
Yeah, and I'm just another friend from the gutter, bro. So why don't we go on to the next track, and we could probably talk about animals in depth or something too. Or actually, we should probably talk "Wish You Were Here" after we finish this up. We got time.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we'll get into that. So
let's
the next song,
wrap up. Let's wrap up Dark Side, and we'll do "Wish You Were Here" too, since we're doing a couple of Pink
yeah,
Floyd cuts. So
we still
let's
got a
go.
little way. Still got a bunch of Dark Side songs yet. Here's the next song is track 4. This is "The Great Gig in the Sky." That's the one where
That's that's the
you've
one
got
I
the
wanted to talk about the most. Yeah.
yeah, you've got the female singer that sings in there. It's all Richard Wright playing piano at first, and then you got
Yeah,
this.
Richard. I wanted to bring up Richard Wright actually while we were
Mhm.
talking about Pink Floyd because he is probably one of the most talented keyboard players that
He's
has ever
amazing.
lived. He
Yeah,
is criminally underestimated.
underrated big time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
nobody. Yeah, he deserves way more credit than he gets. Yeah,
Yeah, he
it's a
needs a
shame
lot
that he
more props.
it's a
People
shame that
should
he
be
passed
talking
away. I
about
was
him
sad
way
that
more.
happened. Yeah.
No, some of my best keyboard players I loved, like Leon Russell or the guy Brett Midland from the Dead. They're
Hmm.
dead now, and nobody's gonna remember them too much.
Yeah.
So why don't you say what you're gonna do about Great Gig in the Sky, and I'll do it afterwards because I got a minute or two to say about Great Gig in the Sky. That's probably my
Yeah.
favorite on the whole cut,
Hmm.
except for the close. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
everybody watching, once we get to the closer on Dark Side, you are gonna friggin' crap your balls, man. So let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. A great gig in the sky. So they brought that singer in. I can't think of her name, but she came in, and she needed to. They asked her, "Can you just sing something to this?" And they let her just go in there and kind of wing it. And so she went in there and she performed that, and she came out thinking that it was crap. Everybody is their own worst critic, and she was her own worst critic. She came out and she's like, "I'm sorry." She was apologizing to them, like, "I'm sorry, that was horrible." Meanwhile, Pink Floyd was like practically in tears. They're like, "That was wonderful. That was amazing. They loved it." And that became the track after that. And then yeah, they she I don't think she ever performed it live with them. I don't know, she might have, but every time they perform it, like when they did, what was that? Uh, the Momentary Lapse of Reason tour, Delicate Sound of Thunder. That was it. When they performed that,
Yep.
they had the three singers help perform that song, and they killed it. The same thing with Pulse. And Pulse, they actually performed the entire album, Dark Side of the Moon, and they killed it that time
I
too. Every
actually,
time, every time they do it,
I
they
actually,
kick
I actually really like it when bands in general, whether they're old ones or contemporary ones now, just
ass. Hmm.
do a whole record live. That's always
Yeah,
great. And a
yeah, I love it.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of stuff on Dark Side was actually pretty much improvised, including that woman that came in. It's kind of
Hmm.
like when I was recording and we'd be up at 3 a.m. and we're just blowing stuff out there to try to do a track, and we keep it because it's good. And it's not something we planned. We just had a couple of drinks and broke a bottle and did a slide guitar.
Yeah.
So since we've talked about this one, why don't we go on to the next track and boogie on to Wish You Were Here before we're gone? Because I'm pretty sure Shine On You Crazy Diamond, all parts is on Wish You Were Here.
Yeah. I run a squeeze in real quick. There's a fundraiser on February 19th for Jonathan Phipps. It's a festival. Unfortunately,
oh, go ahead.
I got to work that day, so unfortunately I can't play in it. But a lot of amazing artists are going to be performing, so I got to plug that show real quick. So go hop on.
No, go ahead. I don't think I knew about it, so I'm not going to be an artist. But if there's slots, I'll do it if John's still here. So I'll do it, John.
On the bottom there, I wanted to plug it real quick. So the next song.
No, yeah, go ahead. We're not getting paid by anybody, so it doesn't matter if we plug something.
You're not getting paid?
Hi, Sandy. Oh, Jay, you're getting paid? I have to talk to somebody then.
I'm just kidding. That's funny though, because the next song on Dark Side of the Moon is Money.
Yep.
So Money.
That's awesome, man.
Money starts off. You hear the jingle, the pocket change, and then you hear the cash register sounds, and then all of a sudden the jingle and the pocket register it turns into a little like a beat kind of, and then bam, money kicks in with that bass line, which comes in comes in 7/4 timing. And because it's such a catchy riff, a lot of people don't even recognize that it's in an odd timing. But yeah, it's in 7/4 timing.
No, it's more in like a blues timing than usual.
Yeah.
For them at least.
Yeah. And that's the song. That's the one that showcases what Pink Floyd was all about before. Like the jams, like they do the chorus and the verse a couple times, and then all of a sudden they break into this solo section. And it's just this cool little cutaway, and if you go back to the live concerts from the 70s when they first came out with the album and you watch them perform Money was a really long song. Like on the album it's only 6.5 minutes, but performed live it's like 12 minutes or more sometimes, because they just go with the solo section, and there's
and it's kind of like one of the few songs that are like Freebird by Skinner or Green Grass and High Tides, where it's a really long song, but it was still a hit and it was still on the radio, and it still is today. So the things I have to say about Money is that I think that's probably some of the most inventive David Gilmour stuff I've heard. He is always pretty brilliant with things he comes up with, but in that one in particular, it just seemed like he kind of woke up one day and decided to do that. So it was a pretty cool track. So apart from that bass line by Roger Waters is one of the most interesting ones he's done. A lot of them on the wall are really vibrant. And if we have time after we talk about Wish You Were Here, I'll probably mention a little bit about what Roger Waters did about the wall. Actually, if people are watching, the whole concept behind the wall actually was when Roger Waters was on tour with Pink, and he actually spit on a fan, and he felt bad about it afterwards, and he thought he was behind a wall with his audience, so he was trying to fix things with that record. So why don't we talk about the next track on Dark Side? We'll probably spend the most time on the last part and just riff any record we have time for in the hour we got here. So I figure since this is a new show, we might as well just, instead of talking about one record, we might as well just cover any record we have time for. So let's go. Let's do the next one.
The next track on Dark Side of the Moon is Us and Them. And
that's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, that song kicks in with an awesome guitar line at the very beginning of it, that chilling guitar line that it's just so smooth and takes you to a whole nother place when it kicks in. You're like in this wonderland kind of. And then they kick in, the lyrics kick in, and that they got that echo on us, 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 and it's such a cool,
And
yeah,
them,
and
and
it's a slow
after
song.
all, we're all just ordinary men.
And it's such the precision in that song with the drum beats hitting exactly right, and everything just, it's a slow song, but everything is perfectly precise in that song. And then
So it makes it seem way faster than it actually is, just because it's
yeah,
so good. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, you don't even
Well,
realize how slow it is. And then you get into the lyrics and what he's talking about, us and them, and like the separation of the classes between, the common people and the rich snobby people, and
and
that's what
that's
they.
exactly what Roger Waters was doing with a lot of those records,
Yep.
explaining the juxtaposition between rich people and poor people and how different they are in their head about thinking,
Yeah,
basically.
they're not
And
so much
that's
rich people in general, but like powerful people, the people running things. That was the ones that he had a big problem with.
and all the people too in general. That's why you can always learn something from the Roger Waters periods in Pink Floyd.
Hmm.
So I really dig us and them. I like how he phrases things in that one, but he always did a clutch job. So let's hop
Yeah.
on to the next track and we can scoop another couple records in here.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah, us and them.
I have some stuff to say about the wall that I'd like to say
Hmm.
while we're doing this together. And since Jonathan's
Sure.
sick, so he can't do it. So
Yeah.
let's move on along down the line. I think we got about 20 minutes left.
Okay. Yeah, us and them flows right into any color you like. The song doesn't even stop. It just goes straight into it. And any color
And
you
it's
like.
heavy hitter, man.
Yeah, I love that song. That song is so good. I've had that song stuck in my head a lot lately. And the guitar,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
just a big jam song, it's just a big solo. First you hear the keyboard soloing at the beginning of it, and then
Yep.
once David Gilmour kicks in with his solo, he does this whole thing where he starts layering multiple guitar tracks, and it's bouncing back and forth in your headsets. And it's the solo itself, he layers it heavily with the chorus and the flange effect, so it's this really cool, just trippy kind of a sounding guitar that went right along with the organ sounding keyboards that Richard Wright was doing. It's just such
Mm.
an awesome song. It was the perfect jam song to fit into this album. Like when they performed the album as a whole, that song, it was the perfect little jam section to go into that spot right there, and it was
I
great.
think they did. I think they did that at Pompeii in '75 when they played there to no audience. And probably we should mention Nick Mason as a drummer too, because
Oh yeah.
he's fantastic. He's got some
Hmm.
great fills in that song, but he
Yeah.
always has a lot of quick stuff to get into the pocket in a little bit of time.
Heck yeah. He's got that signature sound with his cymbals, that ting 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 ting
Yeah,
ting.
yeah,
He started
yeah.
that
As far
back in the Uma
as
Guma days, and he kept it on going.
as far as like timing with the hats and everything, he always had it clutch. And he's a
Hmm.
goddamn fine drummer, man.
Oh, he is
So
fantastic. He's another underrated one.
oh, absolutely. I think he got shadowed by Bonham and Keith Moon because it was the
Oh
same
yeah.
time period.
Hmm. Yeah.
So why don't we move on to the last couple of tracks and we can talk about another couple personal
Yep.
tracks that we like
Hmm.
that are on different records. So I'll let you go
Yeah.
since you're the guest and I'm just temporary host. But I'll do it again if people ask me to.
Absolutely. So here, the last track, well, it's two tracks. They both flow together. Um, we'll just go into this one first. Is Brain Damage, and Brain
Yeah,
Damage.
and actually, Jay, before you start, John, if you're looking at the comments and you're gonna put them up to the thing, put them up for the end of Dark Side so I can see what people are saying so I can respond to it, or Jay can respond to it. So Jay, just take it away. And for real, liking the horn. Yeah, I've had that for years. So whatever Facebook user that is, I'm sure it's somebody I know. So let's dig these last two tracks and move on to something new, buddy. Let's go, Jay.
Yeah. So yeah, brain damage kicks in, and that's all. I think they were thinking heavily about Sid Barrett when they were writing this song, and or just mental illness in general. But they also, again, with pointing out social classes and everything, the lunatic is in my hall. Uh, we hold their photo faces to the floor, and every day the paper boy brings more. He's talking about
Mm-hmm.
the world leaders again, and he's calling them all lunatics. That was a
Yeah,
heavy theme.
exactly.
Heavy theme throughout that album was calling the world leaders crazy.
Yeah,
Right.
once Sid was gone and things were starting to get kind of heavy in the band, Waters got pretty political for a while, just kind of
Hmm.
realizing what he hadn't been thinking about.
Yeah.
And the thing about that ending track is that in the second portion, where he's talking about all that you touch and all that you see,
Hmm.
and everything's in tune, and we're on the dark side of the moon, I think that's probably some of the most important things anyone could get from that record, just because it
Yeah.
kind of tells people that even if you're in a bad place, you can get through it and wind up on somewhere where it's brighter. And that's where some of your original songs are about too, just
Hmm.
being able to get back out of the darkness and into the light.
Yep.
So anything that you have interesting to say about this cut, just
Yeah.
go ahead. I'll have one or two things because this is probably the most one we're gonna go in depth, and if we have time, we'll go into the wall and wish you were here.
I think we got 9 minutes, but yeah.
Looks
That's Eclipse, like you were just saying, like what they're saying. Everything, all that you see, all that you touch, all that you buy, all you create, all that you love, all that you hate, everything is
all you
in.
destroy.
Yeah, there's everything that there is. And this ties back with the lyrics in Breathe. They say the same thing: is all your life will ever be. All this and all that, that's all your life will ever be. And then at the end they say, it's all in tune under the sun, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon.
Yes,
Which ties
and
into
the
crazy
thing about
people.
the thing about that track that'll save us some time is they do the exact same thing where the first track ties into the last track on
Hmm.
Animals, Wish You Were Here, and The
Yep.
Wall.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's something Pink Floyd was always good for, making a cohesive record where you can listen to the entire thing and it all makes sense by the end. You just got to listen
Yep.
to the whole thing.
Exactly.
So what I can say about the last track and Dark Side in general is that's probably one of the first ones I had when I was a kid, and it was really great to have it as a kid. I did some drugs I never did before listening to that record. So yeah, man, I've been swinging some stuff too. So now that we're done with Dark Side, basically, I want people to know it was probably one of their best sellers apart from The Wall. And
Yeah.
you can get it anywhere or listen to it on YouTube for free if you want to listen to it.
Hmm.
So, why don't you talk about a record or two that meant a lot to you from Pink Floyd in a couple of minutes here? I'll talk about
Yeah.
a couple that meant a lot to me, and then we'll
Hmm.
bounce out of here so we can get out of everybody's hair. I think we got about 10 minutes before our cap, and we could probably go a couple of minutes over as long as John says it's
Yeah.
okay. We
We
do.
got 6 minutes. But yeah, so
Okay,
wish you were
I'm in
here.
a slightly different time zone, so you'll have to
Oh,
forgive
okay.
me.
Yeah. I'm going off of Verizon time here. Yeah. So
No,
wish you
I go off by a clock that's a Rolling Rock clock on my wall,
were.
so it's not accurate. So
Gotcha.
let's go.
I'll keep you updated. So wish
I'm
you were
not
here.
worried.
Yeah, wish you were here was one of my favorites, as well as all the rest of them. But that album, that one starts off with "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," and it ends with "Shine On You Crazy Diamond." There's like 9 parts to that whole song. Like I was saying earlier, that song it starts off here and it takes you over there, and every part tries to take you, like the music changes a little bit and it takes you somewhere else. And that whole thing
And
they
if
were talking
anybody's
about.
watching that's interested in that, actually, I encourage you to go and find it on YouTube for free. It'll change your life, seriously.
Oh yeah. One of the concerts that I loved when I look up on YouTube was 1977, finding the Animals and Wish You Were Here concert. They perform both albums
Damn.
in the same concert, and then they actually do an encore of a couple of Dark Side of the Moon songs. The whole concert just blew me away. It was one of those. I knew my dad was at that concert, so I tried to look it up and find it.
Yeah, man. That's really dad was at some of those shows, man. Uh my dad didn't really go to shows too much, but I think personally, um The Wall was probably my favorite just because I've listened to that one the most, and it kind of changed my head up when I was in some jams and or hard times rather. And
Right.
Dark Side is great. Wish You Were Here. I still cover Wish You Were Here when I do cover
Oh, right.
shows, which
Yeah.
isn't often anymore. Um, uh, Umagumma was one I had back in the day. Um, Saucerful of Secrets, like I mentioned before, was one.
Yeah.
And mainly all the Water stuff was what I listened to the most because I really dig the way he plays bass. So
hmm
that was my jam. And then I kind of listened to the other stuff in the 80s and 90s afterwards. It's
Yeah.
good, but it doesn't feel the same when it's the original band.
hmm
So I'm thinking we probably got about 8 minutes tight to talk about the last things we want. So,
We got about three and a half. Three. We got 3 minutes.
okay,
It's
my
eight
my
57.
my live thing's messed up since my camera got muted. So why don't we
Right.
just say a couple things that are important to us about Pink Floyd and get the hell out of here, huh?
Yep. Yeah. John told me that every minute that we go over past an hour, Renee charges him $1,000. So we definitely got to cut it. um,
I doubt that's true, but
I'm
yeah,
joking.
if
Yeah,
if
it's
if
just
John's watching,
I'm still
I'll
here.
reimburse him.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So,
Yeah.
gentlemen,
I just figure we might go over a minute or two.
that's all good. That's all good. By the way, Julio, the folks in the comments are loving the job you did tonight. Thank you.
Really?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
I was
much, man.
super nervous because I've never hosted something before. I just
Man.
figured I'd do it like Johnny Carson.
See, excuse me. Here's the thing. You did better in your first time. I will have been hosting shows a year in April, and I'm still not. I still freak every time before I host something. You came up here for the first time and crushed it, just crushed it, and I'm so thankful,
Dude,
man. So
that means a
thankful.
lot. I was shitting my pants.
Oh me.
Well,
So I
John, this was a really good time. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Julio. Again, thank you for stepping up into the seat for tonight. And Jay, thank
Absolutely.
you.
If you ever need me to do it again, I know a lot of records by the back of my hand. So
All right, we'll keep that. We will definitely keep that in mind. And Jay, thank you for coming on to the show. By the way, the re-premiere of Jay Thompson's Red-Bearded Wine Snob show happened just about an hour before this show. So that is on the B Team channel. You will see it in the video order after this one. So let me run through the credits here and say goodnight to everybody again. To Julio, thank you for stepping up. And
Sure.
to Jay, thank you for being so patient with everything.
Absolutely.
This has been just a wonderful time. And
This is a blast. Can't wait to do
without
it again.
further ado,
Yeah,
ladies
man.
and gentlemen, take care. Much love. God bless. And all the best. And we'll see you tomorrow. We've got another busy week ahead. Take care. And may God richly bless you all.